understood his rebuke. I don't think I would have.
It must have been hard to be a disciple because I'm sure their faith was not always steadfast. You know, there was doubts and so forth. And then something like this happens, and it must have been difficult for Peter to continue that hold.
Haven't you experienced it yourself when you think you've received the word from God, and which I believe sometimes we do, but we don't get the whole word, and it's humbling in the very least when you realize I may have had a little bit of the word, but I'm not God, and I don't have the whole picture. And wait a minute, there's more for me to know and to learn. And you know, so Peter heard God say who Jesus was. But Peter wasn't God and didn't know Jesus. You know, it would be, and at the same time, if they're hearing that, and our lesson is about action, it would scare the dickens out of you to think about the action as a follower, what was going to happen, if that's what that called for.
It was risky being a follower, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Peter's very human. He is the disciple who denied Christ 3 times. And they say self-preservation is the key function of every living thing, to try to prevent death and protect yourself, animals, man, whomever. And Peter was just simply a human being. And to think that here on the eve of Christ's death, his crucifixion, Peter was still denying him. However, I think all of this experience after Christ ascended probably matured Peter and other disciples in their carrying out the work and carrying out the Great Commission, which was to go out into all nations and bring them the word.
I like this last sentence, in seeing the need. Jesus knew the real potential for evil in his followers who speak the right words without performing the right actions.
Yeah, I see Peter as kind of a know-it-all. I mean, I think he's following Jesus because he thinks he's got this famous leader that he's going to follow, and I see a lot of this as Jesus training him, humbling him, so that he can be the leader that Jesus needed to follow. And again, that contrast between the King Messiah and the servant Messiah, if you will. And I think Peter initially probably was still looking for that king, if you will. That's kind of how I understand it.
If Mark indeed was the young man that followed Jesus at the time of the arrest, went through that with Peter, can't you imagine why he would want to go if he had a falling out with Paul, why he would want to be around Peter at that point after he'd seen what Peter had done in denial, what he'd done afterwards as picking up the heavy load, the yoke that he was to bear as the rock of the church. No wonder Mark wanted to go and record what Peter was saying, what Peter had done.
Good point. I'd like to read a statement out of the teacher's manual in regards to this. Jesus was simply reminding Peter that Peter was thinking in purely human terms. Peter was thinking in one time and place. He lacked the vision and understanding to perceive that Jesus was operating not on a human timetable and set of understandings, but on a divinely sanctioned schedule and scenario. These Peter simply could not yet comprehend. I think that's something all of us would have trouble comprehending if we were there, because we're focused on the present, not so much on the future. Thought for the day you got the other day, Jackie. Behind me is the past.
Behind me are memories.
Behind me are memories. Next to me are friends.
In front of me are dreams.
Are dreams.
I wouldn't change my behind.
Now, there's several ways to take that. Memories are good as they are. That's the way to take it. Okay. Would somebody read verse 34 to the end, please?
He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If anyone wants to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed, when he comes in glory of his Father with the holy angels." And he said to them, "Truly I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see that the kingdom of God has come with the power."
Thank you. In many ways, this incident is a summary of the first two sections of verses. For these verses spell out in some detail the cost of discipleship, as in the days when Jesus walked the hills of Galilee and made his way to Jerusalem. So today, many want to follow Jesus and learn of him and witness his miracles. But now as then, many do not want to pay the cost of discipleship. To be a disciple of Jesus is demanding, rigorous self-denying. What does denying oneself mean to you?
Or not doing what you want to do. Doing something for others, or for God, for the church. Maybe you want to do something else, but instead.
Okay?
I really have trouble with that. Deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. I don't feel like I do that. I don't feel like I'm taking up the cross and following Jesus.
Well, I think we do. Like Peter, sometimes he's denying Jesus and sometimes he's right behind him all the way. And yet, God can use that person and use Peter, can use us. Even so sometimes we deny and don't do what we should do or could do. But then other times we do what we should.
I think based on I don't want to say assumption, the fact that we were all sinners,
Right.
we try to do better.
But I think some religions capitalize on that a whole lot.